So this is how I increased my confidence around females. Because like I remember being like 12 years old and it's like my first year at this all boys school. And I'm seeing like my other peers who are like 14, 15 years old going up to girls and talking to them like it's second nature to them. And I'm just like, how the fuck do I even say hi? And it was this whole complicated thing where my friends on our way home would have like their girls that they're talking to while they're walking home, and I'm just like in the back on my phone with earphones plugged in until I did the two things that increased my confidence around girls, which I want to share with you today. So the main thing that I did to like increase my confidence around females was basically reinventing myself and shedding off my old identity, because like the identity that I had at that time was that I'm a little boy, I can't talk to girls, I'm weak as shit. And then for me to have that identity stay on me for like at least 2 years, it was being reinforced by one, the habits that I did, and two, the environment that I was in. Until I changed those two things, that's when I started to see like my confidence increase around girls. So let's talk about the first one, changing your environment. So it can range from things like moving things around your room, or even like going to a different place or a different city or a different country. So the thing that I did to change my environment was change schools. Like from going to that old boys school that I went to the mixed school with girls, where I would learn with girls and they would learn with me. As I changed my environment, that's when my identity also started to change. That's when I started to portray this persona of being like this confident playboy, which when the people around me in that new environment saw, they were like, oh, this is who he is, so we should treat him in that same manner. Until you change your environment and the people around you, that's when you start to see qualities of yourself that you never saw. Right now, you could be in that group of friends who treat you like some fucking loser who just plays video games and masturbates all day. But then once you like have a new group of friends and you like portray something that you want them to see in you, they start to see you as that way. My group of friends that I had at that time saw me as this guy who was small and had no muscle and wasn't confident with girls, but then the ones that I had at the new school started to see me as the guy who could get all the girls, the guy who could do this and that, who could like smooth talk his way into a girl's vagina. So the first actionable step is try to change your environment or your group of friends. If you cannot like move schools or change cities, just try to change your group of friends and remind yourself every time you see that group of friends that you need to act this certain way, because that's what you want to portray to them. So since we talked about number one, which was like changing your environment, let's talk about number two, which helped me shed off my identity and which like got me out of acting that way to the people around me to actually being that way, and that being ingrained into my identity was the habits that I did. Because at that time of where I couldn't be confident around girls, like me still being at the boys' high school, I was doing every typical degenerate thing imaginable. I was playing video games, I was doing junk food, I was jerking off. I wouldn't even talk to my family, right? Those were the things I would do at that time. But then when I changed my environment, and started to portray that I want to be this confident guy around girls, right? I started to also find habits that a confident playboy guy would do, right? I genuinely asked myself, like, what would a confident playboy guy do? And I basically came up with about three things. Number one, work out so you can be attractive as fuck. Number two, talk to girls, like actually just talk to girls and have no filter, because that's what nice guys do. Nice guys usually filter themselves to like fit this type of way, so no one thinks they're like this weird person, and then that kind of like sheds off their authenticity part of themselves and makes them very inauthentic and just makes people repulsed by them. And number three that I also did was skincare routine. I started doing these three things that a guy who gets a lot of girls would do, and then that's when I started to see like I went out of that acting out phase to actually being me phase, because I became that attractive guy and adopted a new identity of the guy who was confident around girls, right? Because like if you are doing the bad degenerate stuff, it's hard for you to stop seeing yourself in that way. Until you change the things that you do, which are your habits, you will never see any type of change in your life, because like habits are just repeated actions over and over again. So if you jerk off every day over and over again, if you play video games over and over again, you will end up like the loser guy who will never ever get a girlfriend. But then if you are the guy who works out, who works on his looks, on his attraction, right, you will eventually find a girl that you genuinely like, because you changed your identity. You are someone new. You are not the old person who does these things, because you changed your environment and you changed your habits, and then you're no more that person anymore. And this is what helped me become confident around girls, which is changing my environment. Either it's like my room or the group of friends I had or the place I lived in, and changing my habits to the guy that I wanted to become, which is the confident guy around girls. If you want to become confident around girls, or just like shed your old identity and become someone new, just change your environment or your group of friends and adopt the habits of someone you want to become. And with that, I want to say thank you for watching all this way. And yeah, I have nothing else to say. Yeah, I have nothing else to say. Yeah, and yeah, goodbye, cousin.